The rain fell heavily that evening, turning the city streets into mirrors of flickering lights. Inside a small corner diner, Emily Carter wiped down the counter. At 27, Emily was no stranger to long nights and aching feet. She worked 2 jobs: this diner at night, and a bookstore during the day, just to keep up with rent and bills. Her life was a cycle of exhaustion, but she never complained. As she placed a coffee cup back on the shelf, the bell above the door jingled. Emily looked up, expecting another late-night customer. Instead, she saw a boy no older than 10 standing there, dripping wet from the rain. His clothes were worn, his backpack old and nearly torn, and his shoes looked a size too small. He stood frozen at the entrance, glancing nervously around the room. Emily's heart tightened. She walked over, crouching to meet his eyes. "Hey sweetheart, are you okay?" she asked softly. The boy swallowed, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm just hungry." Those 3 words broke Emily. She knew that kind of hunger. She had grown up with very little herself. Without another thought, she guided him to a booth by the window. "Sit here." "Okay, I'll get you something warm." She returned moments later with a plate of pancakes, scrambled eggs, and hot chocolate. The boy's eyes widened as though he hadn't seen so much food in a long time. He whispered, "Thank you," before devouring the meal. Emily sat across from him, watching silently, making sure he felt safe. After he finished, she gently asked, "What's your name?" The boy hesitated. "Adam," he said quietly. I don't have money. I can't pay." Emily smiled softly. "You don't have to. Consider it on the house." Tears welled in Adam's eyes as he clutched the fork. "Nobody's ever done that for me before." That night, when the diner closed, Emily found him still waiting outside under the awning. He explained that his mother had passed away months earlier, and his father wasn't around. He was living with distant relatives, but they didn't treat him kindly. Sometimes he ran away, just to escape. Emily wanted to do more, but all she could do was give him some food to take with him. She patted his shoulder and whispered, "You're not alone, Adam. Things will get better." The next few nights, Adam came back. Emily would sneak him sandwiches or leftover pies, always making sure he had something to eat. She didn't tell anyone. This was just between her and Adam. To her, it was a simple act of kindness, but what she didn't know was that Adam's story was about to change everything. A few days later, the diner was buzzing with customers during the breakfast rush. Emily was refilling coffee when the door swung open. Several men in sharp black suits entered, followed by a tall, distinguished man with salt and pepper hair. He had an aura of authority, the kind that made the entire diner fall silent. Everyone whispered as he walked in. He was Mr. Jonathan Hayes, a billionaire philanthropist known across the country. His businesses stretched from technology to education. But why was he here, in this small diner? Emily froze as she saw Adam walk in right behind him. The boy's wet, worn clothes were replaced with a neat jacket, and he looked much healthier already. He spotted Emily immediately and ran up to her with a huge smile. "Emily," he shouted, hugging her tightly. Emily blinked, completely stunned. "Adam, what's going on?" The billionaire stepped forward, his eyes warm. "You must be Emily," he said. Emily nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. I don't understand." Jonathan Hayes smiled. "Adam is my grandson." Her eyes widened. "Your grandson?" He nodded. "We lost track of him after his mother, my daughter, passed away. We'd been searching for him for months. And during the time he was lost, you were the one who cared for him. You gave him food, warmth, and kindness when no one else did." Emily's mouth went dry. She looked at Adam, who grinned and said proudly, "Grandpa, this is the lady who saved me." Jonathan's expression softened. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded envelope. "Emily, people often forget that small kindnesses can change lives. But you reminded me. You reminded my grandson of compassion when he needed it most." He handed her the envelope. Inside was a letter of thanks and a check with more zeros than Emily had ever seen in her life. Enough to pay off her debts, enough to give her a new beginning. Emily gasped, shaking her head. "I can't accept this." Jonathan smiled gently. "This isn't payment. It's gratitude. And beyond this, I want to offer you something more permanent. A position at one of my foundations, working directly with children like Adam. Children who need care and support." Tears filled Emily's eyes. For so long, she had lived paycheck to paycheck, never expecting anything in return for her kindness. And now, that simple act, feeding a hungry child, had changed her destiny. Months later, Emily was no longer just a waitress. She stood at the grand opening of a new children's shelter funded by Jonathan Hayes. At her side was Adam holding her hand, smiling proudly. She had found her calling, and her life was forever changed. Because sometimes, the smallest kindness, a plate of pancakes, a warm smile, can ripple through time in ways you never expect. And Emily's story proved one thing: the compassion you show today may be the very reason your tomorrow is transformed.